All right, what's going on, everybody? This is Jay Myrax of ultrawest.com. Thank you for joining me once again. Just want to give a shout out to everybody on this. Today is the 14th, it's Mother's Day. Hopefully you had a chance to hang out with your Ma Dukes and give her respect and give her all the love and all the blessings that she's given to you. Maybe you had a chance to reciprocate some of that and show your gratitude to her today. So just want to send a special shout out to all the mothers out there, because, you know, without them would be no us for sure. So yeah, man, I just wanted to get it in tonight. Tonight's stream is going to be about the death of the MP3 and what that means potentially for the music production community. So we're going to be talking about some like real audio topics tonight. Hopefully we can just have a good discussion about it. And if you haven't already done so, like I said before, go ahead and check out the Sound Mind Sessions. It's a video course that I created. It's a 6-part video course that has a lot of information about music production and sound design and music industry. It's 6-part, it's free, it's a video course. It'll be delivered to you via email. Go to my site, ultrawest.com. You can do that after the video stream is over. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, I'll put a link in the video description so that you can check out my free video course. I think you'll get a lot of value from it. Hey, what's going on, Kit? I'm checking out the room right now. I got the homie Kit Lewis in here. What's going on with you, bro? So yeah, let's get into the topic. So, the death of the MP3. Now, for those of you that are not aware, there was recently an article in a couple places, but I saw one on Gizmodo, and it was talking about the death of the MP3. And what they basically said, hold on one second, my stream is kind of messing up. Give me 1 second. That's streaming for you. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let's go down here. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, now the article's basically talking about the Fraunhofer Institute that owns or currently owns the patent for the MP3 format. Now, for those of you that are not aware, the MP3 format of audio has been patented for actually many years now. Like, they first got a German patent in the late 80s on MP3, but widespread use of MP3 format came more so in the 90s. So MP3 has been around for quite some time. And you know, everybody at this point, if you're in music production or in music industry in general, you know the effects of the MP3 format on the industry. Now, the industry has definitely been highly impacted by the new compressed digital format that MP3 offered, and it really changed the way that we had to do business in the music industry. So MP3 has been a very important technology. It's been a very very important format for us for many years, but you know, for a long time now, Fraunhofer Institute in Germany has owned the patent to it. So what that has meant is that, you know, for anybody that wanted to incorporate MP3, like any developers on the software side, you had to actually get a license for it. You couldn't just go out and use MP3 format in your software. So, you know, that's been a major issue. You know, like, I've seen on forums and on the internet people complaining about certain products not incorporating MP3 into their software. Like, how come this won't integrate MP3, or why won't it export MP3 and all this stuff? So here's the thing. If you want to use that MP3 format, you had to go to Fraunhofer and obtain a license for it, which meant that every time you sold a software product, whatever, you're definitely paying a licensing fee for that, or you know, whatever their licensing fee was, you had to adhere to whatever their agreement was with you. So that meant for a developer, it was going to cost more money, essentially, and that was going to cut into your bottom line. So, you know, a lot of software titles is like that. Somebody just said Ableton Live is like that. Yes, Ableton is like that. Machine is like that. There's plenty of music production products that are on the market that don't have MP3 export or import, or mainly export though. But the reason has been because of licensing. If you haven't already been able to figure that out, it's about licensing. It's not like a conspiracy against MP3 technically, but there are some other good reasons why some companies have chosen not to use MP3 as well. But ultimately it comes down to not cutting into your bottom line. It's just like for a music producer, if you are primarily sample based and you don't clear samples, I mean, you're going to have some issues with paying licensing or paying, you know, some type of royalty at some point because you don't own the original copyright. So you're using somebody else's material or intellectual property to create your own work. So that's essentially what the predicament has been for the music production community and music software developers. Recently, though, Fraunhofer has basically said this. They have said that they are going to drop or stop supporting licensing for the MP3 format. So they are no longer, they're discontinuing their licensing program, according to this Gizmodo article. And the reason that that's going to happen is low-key because their patent for the MP3 format is about to expire. So when the patent expires, there's really no reason to license it because you know, anybody can pretty much use it at that point once there's no longer a patent that is applicable to it. So that's going to mean a few different things, actually. But before I get into some of my thoughts about where that's going to take us, here's the thing. And I'm going to get into that. Somebody just asked a question. I'm going to get into it because the article was pretty interesting. And this is really food for thought for the music producers. Okay, so Fraunhofer made this statement regarding the end of their licensing. They say, although there are more efficient audio codecs with advanced features available today, MP3 is still very popular amongst consumers. However, most state-of-the-art media services such as streaming or TV and radio broadcasting use modern ISO MPG codecs such as the AAC family or in the future MPG-H. Those can deliver those can deliver more features and a higher audio quality at much lower bit rates compared to MP3. So that's coming directly from the owners of the patent for MP3. They are saying that, first of all, most state-of-the-art media services already don't use MP3. They use higher quality formats that have more features. So, you know, the question becomes then, why are, you know, a lot of people in this music production community using MP3s if there's better options available? You know, like we talk about MP3 format and the import and export and whatnot, but if there's better formats, why would you, as a audio content producer, rely solely on a format that is basically inferior by today's standards, right? So, you know, AAC is, you know, an advanced audio format that allows the quality and the bit rates and the overall fidelity of AAC is going to be a lot better for distribution purposes, for you know, digital distribution purposes. Of course, WAV for music producers is the standard. If you're talking about like high quality, high fidelity audio, you should be using WAV. You know, I see a lot of producers still talking about sampling from MP3s, which, I mean, is baffling to me because, you know, you want your stuff to to hit. You want your stuff to bang hard as a music producer. You want it to have high impact, and you want it to sound excellent. And then you get people talking about sampling from MP3s, and it's confusing because, like, obviously the Fraunhofer Institute even says there are better options out there. So you shouldn't really be relying on MP3 in the first place. But, you know, in thinking about the ramifications of this announcement, you also have this other side of it now. Because there's no longer a patent on the MP3 format, you will have this other side where developers say, okay, well, we'll just include it now because we can. You know, it's open now. I don't have to license it. So yeah, you start to get more developers on the software side that will say, yeah, let's go ahead and just put it in there just as a, you know, as a given. But realistically, at this point, if you're already educated in the fact that there are better options for audio compression, then you should probably consider using a better option at this point, because ultimately, you know, and I say this before, I've said this before, musicians tend to get a little bit romantic about the formats and the methodology of the past, and MP3 has shown its age, and it's gotten to a point now where it's no longer that relevant if you're really talking about audio and audio distribution. So the thing is now, why not move forward? Why not move towards, you know, better quality? If ultimately all these compression formats are trying to do is trying to make it where it's more convenient but still sounds good, well, you as an audio producer should definitely be still looking at what ultimately sounds best and really working in that format. And I understand the whole aspect of being something or using something that's convenient. And I also understand the idea of like being comfortable with stuff that you used to use. But at this point, you should continue to do your research on what is the best quality or what is the most cutting edge quality for audio, so that you're not using things that do a disservice to your audio productions. Ultimately, we know now that, you know, there's different applications out there that can kind of give you a feel for the difference between, say, a wave and an MP3. One of the software I saw was like Isotope, and Isotope Ozone has some features in there where you can check the difference or the artifacts that are added to your audio when you compress down to, say, MP3 versus going full-on wave. And it's drastic. You know, some of the frequency content and just the things that happen to your audio is amazing when you start dealing with MP3 versus a, you know, high quality format or uncompressed format. So really do your homework, continue doing your research so that you know, and that you don't, you don't want to be sending stuff out thinking that it sounds good, and when you compress it, all of a sudden it's not even representative of what you did in the studio. Because ultimately, when we're distributing our music, one of the key elements is to try to make sure that our music translates. You know, that's why we do all this mixing and monitoring in different environments. Monitor on your laptop and monitor on your phone, and then you monitor on your B monitors and your C monitors in the car, and you try to make sure it translates. So part of making sure it translates is also making sure that, you know, the format that you're using is not imparting some type of distortions or truncations on the audio that pretty much destroy your audio or destroy the intention of the audio. So MP3 format dying is really right now symbolic, because technically MP3 has been dead as a legitimate format for wide-scale audio distribution. But now, given that the Fraunhofer Institute has dropped the licensing, I do expect that a lot of applications will just say, okay, it's here now, so we'll just give it to you. So I don't know. How is that going to affect you guys? I know, a lot of you guys are audio producers in this room here. Are you guys using MP3s right now? I'd like to hear back from you. How are you sending music to your clients right now via email when you need to transfer like a 2-track or some type of mix or, some type of representation of what you're doing in the studio to them? How do you transfer how do you transfer audio to them right now? Are you still using MP3 or have you moved on? I'd be curious to know as well. So if you're in here, if you're on the IG stream, let me know. I'm also going to look on this YouTube board real quick, see if I can see anybody talking. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yep. Cool. All right. I mean, people are, it's pretty interesting. People are already talking about AAC, and I think some people already understand that AAC is a better format at this point, but we're still looking also at MPGH. That's something that Fraunhofer has said that's going to be something to check out in the future. So have you already looked at MPGH and what features that offers? That's something to consider as well now, since Fraunhofer is already offering that is something that will be more important in the future. And if you've missed what I'm talking about, I'm going to have a replay of this on YouTube, by the way, so don't trip if you missed the beginning part of this stream. I'm already streaming it to YouTube as well right now, so there will be a replay available. So go ahead and, if you missed some of it, you can check it out later. All right. Some of y'all still using MP3, looks like. Somebody says, I use WAV for project files, and then I use MP3 for completed songs. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's time to consider using some of those AAC formats or, some of the other lossless formats that are available at this point, because now, it's in the open now. Like, pretty much the creators of the format have said that it's basically an inferior format to by today's standards, right? So yeah, you may want to rethink some of what you're doing if you're still sending people that are potential clients or potential buyers of your music MP3, if there's better ways to represent your music that are less lossy in nature. And, ultimately, like I said, I really want to get into this whole romanticism thing with music format, because that tends to hold people back. The last stream I was talking about the mobile music production concept and how people need to start thinking about new ways of being able to represent or being able to produce, for that matter. And you can't get romantic about how things used to be. You can't just be like, okay, yeah, I use laptops now, so it's gonna be like that forever, and that's never gonna die. Like I just talked about in my last stream how laptops could potentially die, desktop can potentially die, because when we start talking about portability and just accessibility and convenience, those are factors as well. And if we can find out better ways to represent the same types of functionality, whether that be on the software side and coding side, or whether that be on the hardware side, that's the way that technology is going to progress. And then when technology progresses and finds something that's better, it moves out the old stuff. And we had some conversations about this whole thing of the laptop dying, but some people said, okay, the laptop and desktop won't die because of the gaming industry. Now, with the gaming industry, now keep in mind, the gaming industry definitely is a big market. Video game sales are probably like higher now than they've ever been. Like, it's a huge industry, but we got to consider that there are so many different ways to consume and play video games. First of all, you have this whole console format, and there's multiple consoles on the market, but then you also have, yes, desktop and laptop. And if we talk about gaming consoles or gaming PCs, for that matter, those have always been amongst the most expensive computers on the market. And, I'd be really curious to know how many music producers are actually using a gaming PC to produce. Because I would argue that a majority of you guys are not using a gaming PC for your music production workstation. A lot of you guys, if you're not using an Apple turnkey product, then you probably have some, whatever PC that made sense that was affordable, but definitely not a gaming PC in most cases. So the thing is now, if we're expecting the gaming industry to keep laptops alive, well, we're talking about the gaming laptops. So then the whole concept of laptops being alive means that it turns into a niche market or a boutique market, as opposed to it being a general consumer format that everybody has access to. So when I say things die, things don't really die at this point. What happens is things turn into boutique or niche. So when something turns into boutique or niche, then it usually becomes a bit more expensive for people that want to consume it or use that type of format or that type of interface. So, you can still get vinyl, obviously. People are still pressing vinyl, but it costs more to press vinyl today. There's fewer places that actually will press vinyl. The lead times for creating vinyl now are a lot longer, and it's just become a lot more expensive for people. So that's an example of boutique, right? So things that have become out of vogue or out of fashion for the majority of people will still be around. It's not to say like MP3 is going to die. MP3 is going to be around, but it's going to be like a certain crowd that's like, oh, MP3. Then you have this niche crowd or this boutique crowd that's into MP3 only. And I don't really expect that for the software side so much, because people can be a little bit more sensible about software. Like, the software's like, oh, you got the MP3 conversion and what that. I don't expect to hear that type of romanticism, but in general, I think that with the computing world, you are seeing people that are romantic about desktop applications, and right now, I think that there's some risk of it leaving and becoming something that is boutique or more expensive, and the least expensive options will probably be mobile devices for a lot of people. Let me go to this YouTube channel as well. Let me see what people are talking about. Somebody says, don't know if it's just me, but I can hear the tinny wackiness in MP3s regardless of bit rate. FLAC would seem to be the best compromise between MP3 and WAV. Yeah, some people can definitely hear it off top. And I think if you really do some good A/B comparisons, you'll begin to understand what kind of artifacts are being imparted into your audio by the MP3 compression. So it's not like you can't hear it at all. It's just that you need to make sure that you know what is happening by doing some really just detailed A/Bing. And I think you have to A/B. As a music producer, if you're not A/Bing and making sure that your stuff translates, then you're not doing your job as a music producer, because your job is to deliver a final product to the consumer. So that means you also need to check and make sure that the final product and the format that you are producing it in is actually making sense and translating to the community or the audience that is going to consume it. So that's really important. Let me see here. Let me go to this IG here. Somebody says, I usually mix songs to sound good on Apple earbuds. Exactly. That's one of the places that you need to make sure it translates to. Now, in making sure that you are A/Bing and referencing properly, it's not just that you want to make it where everything sounds good on just one format. So if you're only mixing for Apple, or earbuds or whatever, you need to check other formats. You need to also check, because some people play their stuff on the laptop speakers. Some people play this stuff in the car. Some people play their stuff or only hear the music on television. You need to check as many places as possible and try to find a healthy medium between the different formats or the different modes, so that you can understand, what compromises you'll have to make in order for everything to be a bit more universally translated and not just good on one format. If you get caught up into one format, then you're gonna miss the boat as well. Because if it sounds great on the earbuds, but then you finally get a chance to get your music played in the club, and then it's like, like what's going on? It sounds horrible. It doesn't have the knock. It doesn't have a lot of the details and the space and all that stuff that I had. You're going to be in trouble. So you definitely want to make sure you reference as many different speakers and listening devices as you can, so that you can get a wide spread on your translation. Just see here. I remember the days of listening to 80s funk bands on a good speaker system. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, right? So good home hi-fi systems. People are not necessarily buying those as much anymore. I mean, you have a lot of different applications where people will buy speakers, but in general now, people are buying a lot more portable and more convenient stuff. Like, instead of these big speaker systems and these hi-fi setups where, like if you don't know what a hi-fi setup is, usually it's a set of components that allow people to play audio. So basically you'll have something like a receiver, and then you may have you might have some other devices. Some people used to have a tape player, and then the CD player, and all these other different devices would connect together, and then you'd have a set of either bookshelf speakers, or you'd have a set of three-way floor speakers. And yeah, now people are using a lot of Bluetooth speakers. I mean, it's convenience. People are valuing convenience more than actual quality on the consumer side, but that doesn't mean that you as a music producer get to slack on the referencing and making sure that your stuff translates. I mean, yes, I still have a hi-fi system. I still like to listen to music on a hi-fi system sometimes, but you have to be realistic. We as music producers don't get to choose what is most convenient for the general consumer to use. So we have to make sure that we identify with our target audience and understand what makes it easy for them to actually get our content, and make sure that we cater our experiences, or we cater our music and the production to giving them a good experience overall with whatever format they're using, and not just be so like one-sided or stuck on one format, because formats change and people's consumption habits change. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to continue to do our homework and due diligence on that. Let's see here. Somebody says, don't most headphones like Beats and speakers have personal bass EQs now? Should we EQ the bass less now? No, it's not about trying to compensate for somebody EQing your stuff, because I mean, cars have always had, EQs for like a long time now. So you've been able to like customize how you want it to sound in your car, but ultimately you need to just check a lot of different speakers and different formats, so you can make sure that what you intend for your music to sound like is translating the best it can on all of those formats. But don't try to start compensating for somebody's personalized EQ, because somebody can always EQ your stuff. You can EQ stuff on your software. Like there's EQ on iTunes, for example. And if somebody's listening and they want to hear more bass because they're listening on a system that doesn't offer the right frequency spectrum, then yeah, I mean, you can't compensate for that. They're just going to do that to their own taste. Your job as a music producer is to make sure it sounds good in as many different environments as possible, and then let people consume it the way that they're going to consume it. Let's see, I'm going to go to YouTube here. Let's see what people are saying in here. Terry Lee Britton says Windows 10 natively supports FLAC now, even in its built-in media players. The writing is on the wall, I say. Absolutely. I mean, you know, and that's why I said Fraunhofer already admitted that there's better ways to compress audio now. So yeah, you can't just be stuck on one format at this point. Continue to look at what's going on, you know, like make sure that you know what the best audio quality formats are as a music producer. I mean, we are like, we represent the experts and the pros in the music production or the music and audio world. So if we don't know what's going on, I mean, we're not doing our job. We're not doing a service to the people that we're servicing, right? If we don't know what the best format is and the best way to deliver the content is, then yeah, we got to continue to do our job. And you know, there's always some new stuff going on. We got to see. Also, you got to be thinking about how you can exploit some of the new, you know, new technology and create some new experiences. That's why you have things like MPG format. MPG format allows you to do things like these 4-part MPG formats where you have like stems and things embedded into the MPG format. Like Native Instruments, for example, has the stems technology, which packs in 4 different parts, separate parts of the music into one MPG that can be delivered to a consumer. And if they want to, in the DJ world at least, that consumer, if they want to separate the parts, now they have the ability to separate 4 different stems and use that to create a mix or create a new sound within the context of a mix or a DJ set. So you got to see different ways. You got to know what the format offers so that you can think of ways to innovate and create new experiences for people that are going to be consuming your content ultimately. Let's see here. Boombox, headphone, car, speaker, system test. Yeah, all of that. Do all of that. Critical listening. I mean, that car one, of course, that can be very subjective as well. Everybody has different speaker systems, different car setup. But ultimately, you want to make sure that what you're doing in your studio translates to your car at least in a good way. And if you don't have a car, get a homie's car. Go ride with them, you know. Be like, hey, let me get that aux cable real quick. And then, you know, you check it. And if it sounds garbage, okay, thanks. And then you keep it pushing, you know. You just got to check, and you got to be resourceful. There's no reason for you not to check on as many formats as possible. Most of us now, if you're a music producer, you have at least, I would hope, you would at least have a set of main monitors that you use to do your production. And then if you're using a laptop or something like that, check the laptop speakers. If you use Beats headphones, use those, check that. If you have the earbuds, check that. If you have a device like a phone, like most of you on the IG, I'm sure you guys have phones, check it on the phone speakers. Make sure that kick is coming through the phone speaker. Make sure you can hear some of the bass. And if you can't, you need to start working out ways so that you can get some of the elements that are translating in your studio to come out in the format that people are most likely to consume it in. So there's things you can do, but you got to go back and forth. It's not a process of just like get it sound good in here and then go out to the world and then it's perfect, because you'd be surprised, man. Like some of that stuff people be doing in their home studios, it has no place on some of these other commonly used formats that people are consuming on. So definitely, man, do that homework and just check everything. Check as much as you can before you say it's a final product, because, you know, how is it a final product if you haven't quality tested it, if you haven't done your QA on the content that you're doing? You can't say it's final. Somebody says, if MP3 is on the way out, what do you think will be format for, or will be the format for music consumers? Well, already we see AAC is one of the more standard formats for distribution of digital content. Like it's a lot better in terms of its compression. It's a lot less lossy, and the bit rates are better, and you know, it's a lot more advanced format. So MP3 is definitely not the end all be all. If you heard the stream earlier, I was saying that Fraunhofer actually got the patent for that in the late 80s, like 89 or something like that, or I mean, maybe even earlier than that. So I mean, the format has been around for so long, and it's like, well, at this point, there's so many different things that are coming up, and also that are already here. Like you have the Fraunhofer was saying MPGH, for example. That's going to be that's going to be more important. So check out that one. See what that's about. See what the features are. See what it offers, so that you know what to expect in the future. But right now, AAC and that format is going to be a lot more important. MP3, like I said, for real audio, like for real audio distribution, MP3 has been dead for a minute anyhow. Nobody is really selling MP3s for the most part. Not items at least, but I mean, some are still trying to distribute their stuff that way on the independent level and whatnot, but you have better options now. Let's see here. Somebody says, I still got a reel-to-reel tape deck. Cool. I mean, you can still listen. Let me, and that's good that you said that, because listen, when I'm talking about this stuff, keep in mind, guys, like when something dies, I'm not saying abandon ship. I'm not saying that at all. It's not abandon ship. Like, okay, MPC 4000, for example, that's anymore. That's been gone for years. Just because something has stopped being manufactured doesn't mean you can't use it anymore. I mean, it's not that you can't use it, especially if it's more of a creative tool. Like, especially with creative tools, like my dude said, reel to reel. Like, you can still use a reel to reel, and if you're going to use it in a creative context, then that's even better, because I mean, you might be able to find some quirky things to do with your audio production with that old equipment that people are not doing right now. So the thing is, it's not about just throwing away. I don't tell you guys to throw away stuff ever. So I hope nobody is getting that impression. It's not throw out your old stuff just because new technology is around. It's more so do the homework on what the new technology does and understand how you can use it in your production or in your content creation, so that you can have, just the features and have the access to push the boundaries within the formats that are available. I still use MPCs, I still use outboard equipment, I still use all of that, but I also use an iPad. Also use an iPhone. I also try to use whatever, because you gotta be looking at pushing the boundaries. You can't just get stuck in like one format, and that's why I say you can't romanticize about like music production, audio equipment, because stuff's gonna change, and you need to know what the actual possibilities are within the formats. Like, for example, with vinyl, vinyl has a limited frequency spectrum. Some of you guys don't know that or understand that, but there was a such thing as RIAA curves. And what that is that it is a representation of the frequency spectrum that is available within the format, especially when we're considering vinyl. So there was a specific curve that shows you what the frequency response would be within different frequencies. So there's like a roll off on the high end, after 12,000 hertz, there's like some type of roll off, and then there's a cut on the bass, and you got to know that, because now, like, when you get to the new technology, we have so much more bandwidth in the frequency spectrum that we can push different boundaries. Some of the stuff that we're doing right now, are producing right now, don't translate well to vinyl, because most of us are not mixing using the RIAA curve. So what that means now is that if you say, I'm going to do something nostalgic, I mix my stuff like with standard mixing, and then I'm going to go get my stuff pressed to vinyl, a lot of times people are not doing their homework and not making sure that their stuff is actually suitable for vinyl based upon the standards of that format, because there are a specific set of frequencies that format can represent. So that's what I mean. You need to know so that you can push boundaries sonically. It's not just like abandon ship. It's just know what you can do. That's really the point. Know what you can do with the technology that's available today, and push the boundaries. And then if you want to use old stuff and incorporate that into getting your specific sound in your studio, do that. Be creative. use everything and be creative. Let me see any talking in the live chat on YouTube here. Hey, what's going on, D? I see you up in there, man. How you doing, man? Yeah, I mean, we gotta kick car stuff every night, man. It's not, maybe this is not, not for everybody, but we just want to talk the real, man. And I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, man. If you guys have any questions and stuff, though, I'm here, man. Let's get it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, if anybody got questions about anything right now, we got a few more minutes before I dip, because I gotta go to the gym. Gotta stay healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like I was saying on my Twitter earlier, health, health is wealth, man, and you got to make sure that you take care of your body. So all this sitting in the studio and stuff ain't always good for you, so you got to make sure you get your workout on. So that's what I'm doing next after I finish this. But yeah, man, any questions? Anybody got anything that they want to go over? This is the time to do it, because, after that, and what I want to do, by the way, guys, I want to try to do this every Sunday, if that's cool with y'all. Every Sunday night at 9 p.m., I want to get this in. I want to have these discussions, man. So, just vibe with me. I want to do this more frequently, because I love talking to y'all. I love getting the feedback, and I think it's great for the community to just be able to have these discussions. So let's do this every 9 p.m. Pacific time. All right, so I'm on the West Coast. Y'all know that. So Pacific time. So if you're on the East Coast, you'll probably have to catch these streams via the replay on YouTube if like 9 p.m. is too late for y'all. But yeah, we're going to keep doing this, man. Let's see. Somebody says, is it always good to mix the main vocals in mono? So mono mixing in general is important. You need to make sure, first of all, that you don't get caught up in always mixing only for stereo, because in some cases, especially in the real world, like say if you're at a coffee shop or at a club or something like that, you don't get to hear the audio in stereo. A lot of times you're hearing the music mono, because you're getting most of the signal from one speaker. You're not sitting directly mid-center of the club or whatever environment that you're in, like in a coffee shop, and you're not getting two speakers perfectly aligned with in an equilateral triangle or nothing like that. You're getting a mono signal, so you want to make sure that most of your mixes, you want to make sure all your mixes translate to mono well, so that if you get in a case where you're listening to it on mono, you're not missing information, because a lot of times we start dealing with stereo only, and we start putting things, way wide in the stereo field, and it doesn't translate when we get to mono. There's some missing information. So yeah, definitely mix or check your mixes in mono and make sure they translate. But in terms of vocals, when you say, I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question correctly, but I think in general, a main vocal should sit in a track in the center, but then you have other things that can be panned around the vocals and that kind of thing. But usually your vocal is dead center in the mix. Your main vocal, at least, is dead center in the mix, and then you may have other elements that surround it and take up more of the stereo field. Somebody's asking here, are digital mixers on their way out? I mean, who knows, really? I could see that digital mixers may become less relevant for some people, for sure. I mean, how many of you guys are really using digital mixers in your studios right now? I mean, I know a lot of guys that are just straight VST only and don't have a reason to use a digital mixer. I will say that, again, nothing dies completely. There's applications for everything, but it becomes more niche and boutique. What I do see with digital mixers is that it may become more of a thing for live application, for example, right? So you got churches, you got concerts and things of this nature where, there's different venues that need digital mixers still, because digital mixing allows them to easily recall the setups, and, somebody does a sound check with a band or something, they get the mix, they create a scene, and they move to the next scene for the next band. So then when they have the show, they can just easily recall the different mixes. And that's what a digital mixture allows you to do that an analog mixture would not allow you to do. So I don't see it going by the way of the dinosaur, but it may be that a digital mixer is not relevant for most people in a studio environment. It might be just more so that the DAW and their audio interface is the mixer at that point, and the only people that are using like console style digital mixers are going to be the guys that have to do live applications. Okay, question. What do you think of mix master services like Aria and Lander? I think they are conveniences. I think that ultimately, if you need to be able to get something out quick and you want it to have the professional levels, at least be like level matched with what the industry expects, those services can be very convenient because you can like quickly get a result and send it out. And if you need people to be able to get a reaction from your music quickly because you're pressed for time or whatever, then it's a good way to just get inspired and, you know, get the feedback that you need when you're dealing with a production that's in progress. I don't like the whole idea of Lander and Aria for final productions, just because I think that mastering is a very important step in the music production and the delivery of the music content. So you shouldn't be just using things that are just like kind of one size fits all. If you've done some really specific stuff in your production, it needs to have the attention to detail necessary to maximize what the sound and the sonic quality is going to be. So, you know, a lot of these services are using algorithms and things that, you know, may not necessarily be appropriate, not only musically and sonically, but artistically for that matter. Because I think there is a certain art form involved with mastering. And I think a good mastering is going to use, usually the best masters out there, or mastering engineers, are going to use some form of analog equipment to get, you know, push certain frequencies and do certain things with the 2-track that you weren't able to do in your studio. So like, I like those services. I wouldn't rely on them for final products. I'd rely on them more so for things that are in progress, that where you need to have this competitive level and all this type of thing. But, you know, everybody's different. Not everybody takes the art in their product as seriously. So I think for people that want to just hurry up and get something out, like you want to throw something quickly up on SoundCloud to get a response, yeah, you can use that kind of stuff, or you can use Ozone, or you can use all kind of things out there that have presets, and you can slap a preset on there, and then it's ready to go as far as the levels are concerned. But I ultimately would say that if you're serious about putting out a high-quality product, then you should consider using an actual mastering engineer if you really want your music to have the sonic impact that it should have. So that's a good question. Good question. I don't see many. Everyone uses audio interface. Yeah, that's what it is, man. Most people use an audio interfaces, not digital mixers. I use straight VST mixers. All my stuff is pretty much digital. Yeah, so I mean, everybody has different setups, you know, but ultimately, I don't see it dying completely. I just see that it'll become more niche and boutique. Somebody asked, why do you use dynamic mic over condenser for your sound design? I use both. I don't just use one. Like, it depends on the source. And the thing is, microphones are, if you start studying microphones and understand things like proximity effect and, you know, different patterns of microphones and whatnot, you have to look at the application. It's not so much about just using one thing for everything. It's not one size fits all. You know, there's some cases where a ribbon mic is better. There's some cases where a condenser is better. There's some cases where a dynamic mic is better. Now, for percussion and stuff, a lot of times, yeah, I'll use a dynamic mic, but you know, it depends. Like if I'm recording some acoustic sources that I need to capture a different dynamic range or whatnot, or it has a different transient response, then I might have to use something a little bit more sensitive or more open. I might want to capture